In this video, I'll show you how to make handmade paper from 2 types of recycled paper, and then 3 fun ways to transform those papers into something uniquely your own. Now make sure you stay to the end to see the extraordinary results from my afternoon of wild paper making experimentation. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. If you see value in my art demos, I would deeply appreciate a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe to my channel below. Links for all the supplies to make handmade paper are down below under the word more. And while you're there, you might also want to check out my free 5-lesson online workshop, Collage Kickstart, where I teach you how to use all the collage papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. So let's get into creating homemade paper from recycled paper. The supplies for making paper are things you probably already have around the house, other than 2 things. One is this frame to actually make your paper onto. So what this is a 2-piece frame. This is called a mold, this is called a deckle, but basically it's 2 wooden frames with some mesh, very fine mesh over one of them. This is something you could make on your own. However, it's very inexpensive to buy off Amazon. So I will have a link at the bottom of this video. You also need some type of blender. Now, this actually came from a thrift store. It didn't cost very much. Once you use your blender for paper making, you don't want to use it for anything else because the chemicals from the paper could still be hanging on to the plastic, so you don't want that in your food. By the way, there is a bottom to this, but it's too big, too heavy to put in the video. You also need what is known as couching sheets to dry your papers, but these are basically sheets that I have cut up. They're just cotton sheets, and they need to be the size, or I should say a little bit bigger than the size of your deckle and frame. You also need a sponge for each color of paper that you're going to make. You also need a large tub, looks like something like this. This is a 19-quart one that I got at the hardware store. We'll actually be taking our deckle and mold, dipping it into, and getting our paper pulp onto the frame. You need a fairly large bucket. This is a 2-gallon bucket. It does have to be big enough that you could put your paper into that you're going to be using to make into pulp, and to have it completely covered with water. And you also want to think about what you're going to use to dry your papers on. What I'm doing for mine is I'm going to be just clipping these clothes hangers onto this and putting them on an indoor clothes rack. You could do this outside. You could also forget this and just put it on a plastic shower curtain. So there are 2 types of paper that I'm going to use for my paper making. One is this shredded paper. Now, because there is a little bit of newsprint, or I should say black print on the paper, that will discolor this paper. So when it actually comes out as paper, there's a chance it could come out a little gray. So because of that, I'm actually going to take some paper that it's paper that I use right on my art table, but a lot of it is clean paper. So I'm going to take the clean parts of it. This will actually come out as white paper. So my intention here is to use paper that would either be put in the landfill or recycled to make my paper from. Now my buckets are full of my scrap paper from my table, and it's at least 2/3 full of water. Same thing with my shredded paper. It's at least 2/3 water. The paper's just floating to the top, so it looks like there's more paper than there is. So I'm going away for the weekend. I'm going to let this sit right here on my studio table and soften the paper. And when I get back, I'll show you the next step. I am now back from the weekend. My paper is nicely saturated here. You can see the water is really cloudy here, which is going to affect the color of paper that I get out of this. Even though this went in the bucket looking pretty white, all of the ink has now gone into the water, whereas this is bright white. So next step is to put this into a blender. Okay, I'm all set up to make paper now. So I've got my blender. Now it's important to use a blender that you don't intend to use for anything else, because the chemicals off of the paper can actually hurt you because they'll stay somewhat in the blender even if you wash it out. So all you do, you take a handful of the paper. I'm bringing it a little bit only so that I don't get water over everything. Like a nice handful. I'll take a second handful. And then I'm going to put twice as much water in here as I have paper. So I'm going to fill that up. I might even put some more in here. There's no ratio necessarily of water to paper, but the more water you have, the more it will kind of go to a thinner consistency, so you'll get thinner paper. Here we go. I'm just going to test it out, see what I have. So kind of feel it. Oh, I have nice mush going on there. But I really want very thin pulp. The thinner the pulp, the thinner the paper. So I'll try it a few more times. I'm actually going to take this pulp and pour it into this larger container, which I'll give you a better shot of in a minute. So I'm going to pour maybe half of that in. We'll see how much I need. I am all set up to make my first paper. Now, first thing is I put all of my pulp in this 19 quart plastic bin. So this is the size of it. When you take your mold and deckle, which is what we're actually going to make our papers from, you want this to be about the same height or width as this, because what we're going to be doing is actually dipping this into the water. So you want to have enough depth of our container so we can do that. So all of the pulp is now in there from the 2 handfuls that I took out of that 1 bucket of shredded paper, and that's what I blended in the blender. And then I added a lot of water to this, because the thinner this is, the thinner your paper is going to be. If you want fat paper, you make it more pulpy, and it's really an experimentation thing. It's not really an actual ratio that I can tell you. You also want to have what is known as a couching sheet. This is what's actually going to catch the paper, so to speak. This is 1 piece of my homemade paper will go on each one of these. And I also have a towel underneath just to give this a little bit of cushion as I do this. So what I'm going to do is take this mold and deckle. This obviously has a screen in it. Now, this particular mold has a shallow end right here, and also on the other side, a little bit thicker end. The thing to remember is have the smaller kind of edge on the top, bigger edge on the bottom. Place this directly over it. Now this top piece here will actually kind of contain the paper within the form. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of swirl this around so it's kind of even. And then I'm going to dip this in as such. And I'm just very gently tipping this to let the water kind of seep out of it. I'm going to very carefully. Then I'm going to take a sponge and I'm going to get up as much of the water from what's actually in the paper. So I'm going to keep doing that until it looks like I've got most of the water out. And then you just gently lift this up. And there is our paper. And of course it's gray. So we're not going to know exactly what this is going to look like until it dries, which will take a little bit of time. So what I'm going to do is take this and gently put it on a tray full of other papers that I've made. So I got a whole pile of them. I'll wait till I have 4 or 5 of these, and then I'm actually going to hang them up. This color is almost a neutral blue, but I thought maybe I could put some of my acrylic paints in it to color the paper. So this is in my palette. I'll try a little bit of yellow too, because I really love teal. Again, there's no formula for this. Mix this up a little bit. No telling how this is going to work, but I like it that you can actually see some of the paint that hasn't been mixed in totally. Take my mold, put my deckle on top, and let's see what we get. Ooh, almost forgot the couching sheet. You need a little piece, you need a towel here. Then I'm going to push it down and get the excess. You can actually see the paint that didn't mix very well. I mean, it turned the paper even more blue, but some of the paint was still unmixed, which I actually think is a cool effect. Because this paper is now in my limited color palette, this would be a really beautiful additional element to add to a collage. Oh, gorgeous. Well, I just realized putting this on top of here is going to add some color there. So I could either put a piece of wax paper there, but I'm actually thinking that maybe I will allow that paint to go through the gray one. It's already going through on my couching sheet. Let's try one more thing. I'm going to add some alcohol ink to this and see if we can get some different effects. Now the alcohol ink actually separates from the water, so it is not totally mixing in, which is what I wanted. Now, flip this over really fast on the couching sheet. Really cool things are happening here. If you can see this, but there are speckles all over this. This is as if I had put some kind of confetti in it. The actual alcohol ink does that. I love that. I'm gonna swirl this around a bit and dip. Now this is exactly what I wanted. Tons and tons of all different kinds of sprinkles of blue. But look at all the beautiful speckles on that. And this is in my color palette. It's beautiful. So I just churned up a bunch of the white paper, and I am going to just kind of play around with how much I need. So this is pretty thick pulp. I mean, I can hold it in my hand. So I'm going to add a lot more water to this, so it's much thinner, but it will sit in my hand, whereas before, with the blue paper, it just ran out of my hand, which produces very thin paper. So I got a new towel. I've got a couching sheet to catch the paper. So I don't think I've got enough water in here. This is a pretty shallow bucket, but I like how thick this is, but I'm not going to be able to actually dip my screen into this. So I'm going to add a tiny bit more water, cautiously. That's better. Let's just make one paper with this and see what it'll do. Now, this is like, woo, this is very, very thick paper. Let's put it down on our couching cloth. Now, this is very watery. Just realized I was using the sponge from the blue papers, so I got a little blue in here because the sponge had blue on it. Now, this is not picking up any blue now. It was the sponge. So if you change papers midway through, you gotta change sponges too. You learn as you go here, right? So I'm just kind of smoothing the paper out along the back. Beautiful. Now this is definitely a thicker piece of paper. So let me show you what you can do with this. While it's still very wet, I can actually make some imprints in it. And these will dry with these really cool designs embedded into them. Let's try the same thing using the stencil. So this goes on the bottom. This is the mold. And I can see that there's a big rim there. There's a short rim here. And I am going to tuck my stencil in here so it fits almost exactly. Put the frame on top of the mold. And let's see what happens. Oops, I need to stir this just a tiny bit. Okay. By the way, I've tried putting my paper right onto just a tea towel, and it doesn't work. You actually have to have the couching piece of cloth. So we're just going to quickly put it down with a clean sponge, one that was not used for the blue papers. Get out all the extra water. And now I'm going to carefully pull up this little stencil. I'm going to do the same thing as before. Stir this up a little bit. This is my favorite mark makers. It's just a round coaster with lots of indentations in it. So I thought, why not? Actually, this side would be really cool too. It's got little nubs in it. Oh my gosh, that is like the best. And this is pretty thick paper, so it's making a really nice imprint. So I can push down pretty hard. that will be an amazing piece of collage fodder. I'm gonna try one more technique, and that is to put some little leaves, or in this case, I don't know what this is. It's some kind of, it has little seeds to it. But what you wanna do is find things that are dried, like some kind of dried flower. You can use dried leaves. You could put sparkles in here. You could put glitter in it. I don't know if this is gonna work. Just put them in there as well. See if they can actually get picked up by my screen. Again, I'm gonna swirl this around a bit, pick some up. This is one of those ones you may not see what you got until it actually has dried. Now, this is very subtle, but those little pieces are embedded into my paper now. And the next to last step is to dry these on some kind of line. Now, I could just put them on my shower curtain on my floor, but that takes a lot of floor space. It's got some clothesline clips, and I clip them to this portable dryer. It's now the next morning. My papers are all dry, and here comes the really fun part. So we're just gonna gently lift our paper off of the sheet. It's amazing how it sticks to the sheet, but it comes off so easily. My papers have all different thicknesses because I added a different amount of the pulp to each one. So I wasn't precise necessarily, but like this one is very, very thin, which I absolutely love. This one's thicker because I wanted to put the stencil on it and required more pulp to do that. Now, as you can see, these have a lot of curve to them. The options are to leave them exactly the way they are, because when I use this in a collage, even though this is warped now, when I glue it down, it will be perfectly flat. However, I can get them all to be flat by stacking them up. You might want to put a piece of either wax paper or a deli paper in between the papers that have color versus white. Otherwise, there's a chance that some of this blue might come off on here. It might not. And then I would just stack them all up together and put a couple heavy books on top and leave them overnight, and they will end up very flat. Now, my sheets are stained, particularly the ones that had the blue paint on them. And that is perfectly okay. These are reusable. I'm just gonna put them in the washing machine all together. So some of the blue may come off on the white ones. I'm okay with that too, because the paint more than likely will stay exactly where it is. It will not bleed off into anything else, but you never know. But I am gonna put my couching sheets in the washing machine all by themselves just to be safe. Now that I've pulled all of my paper off of the couching sheets, I really get a good sense of what I have to use for collage. And I have some favorites, obviously. Love this one. This is the one where I actually dropped acrylic paint in my basin and it didn't all dissolve before I dipped my deckle and frame in it. So the little paint droplets came through, which I think is really cool. In this one, I actually put the alcohol ink in it. So the alcohol ink didn't mix with the water, and so I get little speckles as well, which I think is super cool. Now, these are very thin papers because my pulp was very thin, had a lot of water in it. In order to get some dimension on the paper, I had to have thicker paper or more pulp, less water. It's not a science in terms of how much water, how much pulp. It's kind of an ongoing experiment. These are two examples of how you can add all kinds of things to your water. So these little yellow specks are actually dried flowers, which came out really nice. You can also experiment with all different colored papers. Just adding acrylic paint to your basin of water just creates beautiful effects. Making your own paper is so satisfying, particularly for people like us who love collage paper. What's better than making the paper itself? So I hope that you enjoy this process as much as I did. And I know I'm about to go back and make another, 3 dozen more papers because I have lots of pulp left over that can make more of these. And in an upcoming video, I will actually show you how I'm going to be incorporating this into my ongoing Tune In Tuesday collage series. So enjoy the process, and I would love to see what you make from this. To learn how to make many more types of collage papers, check out the links that are about to appear right here. And be sure to join my free 5-lesson online class Collage Kickstart. The link to sign up is under the word more below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would be deeply grateful if you would. And I'll see you here next week for another Tune In Tuesday.